to show a little bit of footage. We are covering today what is happening. This kind of thing is happening across the country in terms of riots and vandalism. But yesterday there was a gathering of advocates for the police, supporters of our law enforcement, an annual event, Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. This goes back to July 19th, 2015. It is not a new event. And it was disrupted by thugs supposedly associated with a genuine cause of Black Lives Matter. And it erupted in violence pretty darn quickly. I was playing with the band, and we couldn't continue because they jumped in. It was like a swarm of locusts coming in from the outside. And let's go and just show a little snippet of some of the extent of what happened in Cut 3, downtown Denver, Civic Center Park. Just yesterday at this annual pro-police rally event, at which I attended and was on stage there. As you could see, this is my footage here, Cut 2. 3. I don't know if you could hear the volume there. I couldn't, but I wanted to show you a little bit. That was one of the scuffles, to put it mildly, that took place. We just talked with Samantha Koch, who was threatened yesterday with the prospect of having her throat slit. Bazzel Baz was for years in the CIA, overthrowing small governments. He's also a Marine Corps veteran, the founder of the Association for the Recovery of Children, which in the dark of night will rescue trafficked kids without their captors knowing. He is known as Baz from his appearances on the first 4 seasons of the Blacklist, and is the author of a pretty thick, I'm excited to get reading it, new book, Something Bigger Than Overthrowing Small Governments. Good friend of the show, Bazzel Baz, who was at yesterday's event at my invitation, joins us today. Baz, my friend, welcome.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's good to be with you. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you as well. So you were there. Tell us what you saw happened.
We were there. As you know, Jimmy, I was set along with Steve Reams to be a speaker there at the rally. It was a very peaceful gathering of, at first, of just dedicated patriots, Americans that are in support of their law enforcement partners. And it wasn't soon after that got started that members of BLM, Antifa, Socialist Network, of people very well organized, were able to integrate and started causing a lot of problems. I saw fights break out. I was threatened multiple times from everything from "I'm going to cut your throat" to racist comments, to things about "let me get a hold of that flag and I'll burn it around you," stuff like that. So it turned out to be pretty disruptive and pretty violent. And I had to say, Jimmy, in defense of our law enforcement community, which, as you know, with the Association for the Recovery of Children, we've seen nothing but excellence and honorable duty when helping us find, so many lost American children. And when we look at 800,000 American children missing, and I look at all these socialist thugs that came up there that are talking about defunding the police, they have absolutely no consideration for the lives of the innocent children and what the police do every single day to not only be the first line of defense against crimes that are committed, but actually offer a ton of stability to this country. I will tell you that as someone that has participated in overthrowing small governments, I've seen this pattern before. First it starts with defunding your police, then you disband your military. Then there's chaos across the United States. Then, of course, UN troops are brought in. It's a great excuse for bringing them in. And, of course, then you lose your sovereignty here in the nation. And And then it goes on and on and on. And for anybody listening to this right now that thinks that's just a conspiracy theory, you're a fool, because I did it, I lived it, and I'm watching it in motion here in my own country. And so with the Denver event, if I may take the liberty to say, uh, in defense of our law enforcement community across the nation, Jimmy, I have a message for every liberal, socialist, Democrat member of city councils, mayors, and governors. We may not have control over the stupidity of your decision-making process to defund the police departments. And while you may end up having your way with the police, you can never defund the American patriot. It's never going to happen. And what I saw yesterday was I saw the overwhelming masses of corruption go against many American patriots that love this country. They fought for this country. They love law enforcement. At least the good law enforcement have done a great job. And what I did not see, and this is what saddens me, I did not see the silent majority in America standing up during this situation. My question was, where were they? Where were they? Many people knew that this was a possibility, that this could occur. We see it happening in New York. We see Chicago. We see it all over the place. We've seen it before in Denver. Question was, where is the silent majority?
Yeah.
And I will say this to the silent majority in America. If you think that you're going to save this nation simply by going to the ballot box and voting Trump in, and God help us that he gets in, you're sadly mistaken, because we could very well not even get to that process if you don't start standing up and stopping stuff like this from happening. This was, in my opinion, professional opinion, I am so happy that the police that showed up there, the SWAT teams that showed up there, stood alongside of us, and we were able to stand alongside of them as well. It was an honor, but I would have liked to have seen more, because it was very clear what was taking place. This wasn't a situation about whether the police should take sides or not. This was a situation where there were just people holding a calm rally with their American flags, honoring the police, and criminals and thugs coming in to disrupt that. That entire crowd should have been pushed back. They should have been arrested. And I can't help but think that the police that were there protecting us, I think, probably trying to protect everybody, of course, were not already given orders to just basically not get involved very much. And I think that was a political statement by somebody in the state of Colorado, maybe the mayor of the city, I'm not really sure. But when you saw the disruptive actions and the danger and the threat being presented by this mob, those people should have been arrested.
Well, I will say this. It seems like the officers, from what I hear, were told to stand down, to not be more vigorous in their role. And I think that goes to the core of one issue we've been talking about today, Bazzel Baz, and that is the fact that the police have instructions from political operatives not to do their jobs. And then when they do their jobs, then they are, and appropriately so. I'm not saying some of the excesses that we have seen, but when they appropriately do their jobs, they might find themselves in hot water. I mean, this is why these thugs were so brazen. That's the word I keep using, brazen and empowered to actually do this.
Yeah, they're able to get away with it, and they should not be. And the thing about it, it's like a cancer, and I've seen it in other nations before, where if they had a democratic system, I mean, hey, let's take a look at Venezuela. Most of these people that were out there in the mob, so to speak, the BLM, the Antifa, whoever else it might have been, they've never lived under socialism before. And they have absolutely no idea what it is like when your entire life is controlled by a socialist entity or socialist government. And what the irony in their actions is, they want to create problems and crime, and they want to be allowed to be protected to commit that crime. But if a crime is committed against them, or someone defends themselves against them, the very first thing that is out of their mouth is, "You assaulted me," or "Where are the police?" It's really funny. So I have a message to to Americans, not the fake Americans that think that just because you were born here, you get a free hall pass to destroy the nation. There are a lot more of us than there are of you. And no matter what race, what creed, what color, we're going to stand as one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Should our police fall, or should our military be hindered? Should our president be ignored? Should good law-abiding citizens like yesterday find themselves captive and threatened by thugs? Or should our nation even fall under oppression? We American patriots are going to hold the line, and we're going to protect our United States from the threat of tyranny and lawlessness thrust upon them. We're going to support our law enforcement against criminals, conspirators, and anti-American forces from around the globe. Mark my word, this is our country, and we will not allow it to go undefended. And I want to encourage everybody, as you take a stand out there to defend law enforcement, remember this: one man or one woman with courage is a majority. And that's what we saw with the Patriots yesterday. One man here, one woman here, standing their ground. And they were actually the majority. And so while the mob may have thought that they actually won, they actually accomplished their mission of shutting this peaceful recognition for law enforcement down, they actually lost, because everybody in America sees exactly who they are, what they're made of, and what they're out to do.
Well, and Baz, the reason why I wanted to spend a lot of time talking about this today with an extended show and all that is because here in Denver, I know for me, I got to experience firsthand exactly what these people are about. I have clarified and I have said, and I really believe this, a lot of genuine supporters of Black Lives Matter who really believe there's injustice that needs to be wronged. And you know what? I agree with them in a lot of ways. I think there are a lot of reforms that we need to be looking at implementing and have a meaningful conversation about it. These were not genuine advocates of any sort of righteous cause by any stretch of the imagination. And something else that I noticed, which I already knew, but now I got to see it, is that these people who were supposedly stating there that Black Lives Matter has to be that 95% of the disruptors who intervened in our peaceful gathering to support the police, they were white. They were not people of color. And this
No,
is a trend that we're seeing.
I had an opportunity to actually have a few conversations with a few of the mob, believe it or not. And I would ask them, so are you with Black Lives Matter? And they would go, yes. And I'd go, tell me about Black Lives Matter. Didn't know anything about it. You know, who are you? Are you with Antifa? Yeah. You want to tell me about it? No. You know, it was so discombobulated, and it was as if it was so well organized and so well paid for that basically people were just there to be disruptive and destroy. In a nation, they had nothing to offer as far as a solution or how do we make things better. You certainly can't carry on a dialogue. And I've been in enough riots and enough mob situations to understand you're not going to get anything done there. And I hate to say this, but it needs to be said. As a veteran of this country, if you even hint at the fact that you want to destroy the Constitution of the United States, that you want to hurt my family, that you want to destroy my country, you have become my enemy, and I will treat you as such. And I think that all the people that were part of that rally yesterday, I'm talking about the mob, the Antifa, the BLM, whatever, they only get their reality from what they watch on television. They've never been to war, most of them. They don't understand what it's like when a nation actually rises up and defends itself. They don't understand that veterans and good American patriots are starting to say enough is enough. And when the police are defunded, if they're defunded, you're going to have American patriots rise up in numbers that you cannot even imagine. And they are not going to put you in jail. They are not going to slap you on the hand. They are not just going to push you away. And I've seen this in other countries. Most likely, they will take your life. And that is a place we never want to get in the nation. But sadly, Jimmy, when it comes to civil disturbances, this is what I have seen in the past. So fair warning to members of mobs, of socialist mobs and these things that want to continue to go in and destroy stuff. It's just fair warning. And I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I'm saying it's probably going to happen, because I talk to people that are good American patriots. And I tell you what, I have never seen the level of frustration that I am seeing now with good American patriots that are saying, you will not destroy my statues. You will not destroy my country. You will not destroy my flag. I mean, these are the real conversations I'm having. And when you have these conversations with people that have spent 2 tours in Iraq, 4 and 5 tours in Afghanistan, they're tier 1 operators. They're the Hells Angels. They're all these people. Let me tell you something. They're serious. They're dead serious about their actions that they're thinking about taking. And then when that happens, God help us, because blood spilt on our soil is not going to be a nice thing. And I'm only saying it this way because I don't think these people really get it. Like you say, they're empowered, and I think someone is empowering them to take the wrong path, and they're going to keep going and keep going until they come up against the American patriots of this country, and it's going to be a whole different ballgame.
Finally, Bazzel Baz, our guest. Of course, he was a CIA officer, special ops for many years, a Marine Corps veteran. Of course, first 4 seasons rather of the Blacklist. And by the way, with you around me there, it actually seemed like I was sort of like in a scene from the Blacklist when chaos all breaks out. But hey, Baz is there, so never fear. I want to ask you a final question, because as we look ahead into the future, we see this brazenness on the part of Antifa and the radicals of Black Lives Matter, and how willing they are to disrupt and attack a peaceful gathering in the way that they did. As police are being neutered by politicians and trying to figure out what are we going to do, some are rethinking their career choices and maybe leaving because they don't have the backs of, or rather the politicians don't have their backs. What do we need to do as a society in order to right the ship?
Well, we will only be able to do one thing. If you have no law enforcement, no official law enforcement that we can respect, that we can actually go to. When you have civil turmoil, then what will happen is Americans, citizens, will start defending themselves. And a lot of those American citizens don't have the training that police have. They don't have the patience. They don't know the legal boundaries, that law enforcement are well schooled in. And so what will happen is you'll see chaos. You'll see people defending themselves. In this case, if it was an example of that, what you would have seen, we could have seen someone, there were a number of people that were armed. It's their right to be armed, probably on both sides. Had one shot rang out, maybe 50 would have rang out. And again, that's what it ends up turning into. And once it gets rolling, you cannot control it. You cannot control it without a well-defined militia or a well-defined law enforcement entity or a well-defined military who have practiced or well practiced in riot control, mob control, whatever it may be. And the next thing you know, it turns out to be something really nasty. There were a lot of people there in the Black Lives Matter movement and the mob and the Antifa. And I mean, there were a lot of kids there, really. And I really felt sorry for them, to be honest with you, because I know that they've been worked up in this frenzy and they haven't had a chance to do the research and understand, everything about the organization, Black Lives Matter, or everything about Antifa. Look, this is not a race issue. There was a guy standing next to me, Black American. He's not African American. He's not from Africa. He's a Black American. You want to call me a white American, Native American, whatever you want to call me. And he looked at me and he said, I was in the military. He goes, I don't even support Black Lives Matter. He goes, they want to destroy the United States. They want to destroy everything I fought for. He goes, these people aren't even part of Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, what do you mean? They got big signs going on Black Lives Matter and I am Antifa and we hate cops and all this stuff. And so even this guy was confused and he looked at me. He goes, brother, this is not a race issue. He goes, this is a mob that is out to destroy the police so that crime can run rampant and the city can fall.
Oh, Baz,
that's what he told me.
You saw what I'm calling Polisville, all the tents, the encampment right outside the state capitol, which has been absolutely brutalized to the extent a building can be brutalized. I mean, it is abominable, the extent to which the city of Denver and the state of Colorado, because that Capitol building is state property, the extent to which they are allowing this kind of behavior to happen, and that is the real story here. Baz, we got to run, but I really appreciate it, brother. Go ahead, real quick.
I was just going to say, you're exactly right, Jimmy. What our listeners need to remember is that the state, the governor, they knew this group existed before. They knew the intent of the group. And instead of preventing it from happening, they allowed this group, knowing what the group was made of, a destructive unit, to actually march on and destroy a peaceful rally of friends and families supporting law enforcement. So we asked ourselves, who was responsible? Who was responsible and who could have done something about it beforehand? The governor could have, and the mayor of the city could have, but instead they allowed it to continue. So who's guilty here?
Absolutely. Folks, check out the new book by Bazzel Baz, Something Bigger Than Overthrowing Small Governments. This is going to take me a year to get through at the rate that I read, Baz, but it looks pretty cool. Thanks so much for joining us and for coming yesterday. I was very glad you were there.
Hey, buddy. Bye-bye.
Once again, Bazzel Baz joining us here on Jimmy at the Crossroads. He, of course, CIA veteran, overthrowing small governments. He's saying this is the kind of thing that he saw in other countries and participated in, because that is what the United States was doing during the Cold War. I mean, that's the reality. And he's saying this is a lot like the kinds of things he was experiencing at that point in time. You just watched a clip from Jimmy at the Crossroads. Don't miss more engaging, intelligent talk. Subscribe to the Jimmy at the Crossroads YouTube channel today. You want to catch our live show. And I love your support.
I got Jimmy at the Crossroads, making sense out of no sense. Yeah.